Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining us today. My name is Faiza, and I will be presenting Explore Teams and Channels in Microsoft Teams for you today. And as a reminder, I do want to let you know that this training will be recorded and be available for on-demand viewing. Um, excuse me, be available for on-demand viewing for 90 days. So before we get started, I do want to review some meeting controls as a refresher. We are using a Microsoft Teams live event today, so I do want to draw your attention to the screen to this player pause button in order to play or pause the event. Next to it, we have the volume icon where you can change your volume settings. And right along, right along across the line, we have the CC icon to turn on live captions if you choose to do so. Then we have the gear icon for settings for captions and video quality. And you also have the option to go ahead and make this session full screen for your viewing experience. Now, I do want to highlight this function, specifically the Q&A function, where you can go ahead and communicate with my moderators who are also joining us today. And over here, you can go ahead and ask your question anonymously or with your name, whichever you choose. And if you are having any technical issues, my moderators will also be there to help lightly troubleshoot you. And once again, if you have any questions or need to communicate with us in any way, please use that Q&A function. All right. So I do want to put some faces to the voices you'll be hearing today. As I mentioned before, my name is Faiza, and I will be your presenter for today. And joining me, as I mentioned before as well, are my lovely coworkers, Rod, Yami, and Jesse, who are also moderators. And we are training associates, specifically based in New York. So for our training agenda today, in general, Microsoft Teams offers a robust collaboration feature called Teams and Channels, and this feature specifically allows a team owner to create specific workspaces for the team to collaborate and produce work collectively. So in today's session, we're going to be walking through the structure of teams and channels, as well as how to join and organize your teams, and how to create and manage a team overall. Now, Microsoft Teams and Channels offers a structured way to organize and manage workspaces, content, and groups of people. Guests can also have access and applications and tools to help your team succeed, and those are available to create a specific workspace for your team. Microsoft Teams and Channels are set on the framework of a SharePoint site overall. So each team has its own dedicated SharePoint, and each channel will have a dedicated folder to maintain documents for that workspace, which we will briefly review today as well. Now, moving forward with our demonstration, please allow me a few moments as I switch over to my demonstration account. The screen will go blank for just a moment, and then the demonstration should appear. I do want to check in with my moderators at the moment to see if you can see my screen.
You are good, Faisal.
Thank you so much, Raj. All right, so here we have our Teams interface, and I am using the Teams desktop application. Now, before we get started and review our teams and channels, I do want to briefly go over some navigation functions. We have our profile tab right over here where you can select the account that you are working with. As I mentioned before, I am using a demonstration account and in the name of Megan Bowen. And along with our tab line, we have our ellipses for more options that you will find along any M365 application. We have our intelligent search bar right over here to search up any information if you need to. Along with that, we have our navigation arrows to move forward and back with the pages that you are using. And under our navigation arrows, we have our basic features in Teams. So we have our activity function, our chat feature, our teams and channels, which is what we're going to be focusing on today, our calendar function, our calls, and our files. Now, as I was saying before, our main focus for today's session will be our teams and channels. So I'm going to go ahead and select that over here. And you'll see that you'll be brought to a page of teams and channels that you are a part of. So in this case for Megan, you can see that she is part of a plethora of teams and channels. And you may be wondering what the difference is between teams and channels, specifically in their conversations, as opposed to chat conversations. So teams and channels are essentially a space for you to have any work projects or ideas collectively in one space where you can collaborate and work on content together, as opposed to your chat conversations that you use for quick messaging or pings throughout your day. So you can see, as I was mentioning before, for Megan, she is part of a great amount of teams, and along with those teams are a couple of channels that are embedded under them as well. So these teams are dedicated to a specific topic, as I said before, or a project that Megan is working on along with her colleagues, and along with those projects, they're divided into specific categories that they can work on as well. Now, accessing all of your teams, you can go ahead and view them over here and see that Megan has a few channels of her teams that are pinned up top for easy access. So if she were to refer to them easily right over here, she can access that information. And I did want to draw your attention to the fact that it was bolded before I selected that specific channel. Once I did select it, it was unbolded, meaning that that information has been marked as read. Now, similarly, there's the rest of her teams over here, along with the other channels that are not pinned, because once again, she is a part of a lot of teams and channels. But to access them relatively quickly, you would want to pin them right over here. And you can do so by using these ellipses right over here. And you'll find more options to choose and go ahead and pin or unpin the channel that you're working with. Now, before we dive into the details of working through the channels and teams, I do want to draw your attention on how to access your teams overall. So we are going to navigate towards the bottom side of your left screen, and right over here with the tab that says Join or Create a Team, I want to draw your attention to this gear icon. Once I select this gear icon right over here, you'll see that you have a bird's eye view of all of the teams that you're a part of. So in Megan's case, she is a part of 13 teams that are active at the moment. And you can see the name of the teams that are listed right over here, excuse me, along with the description of the team. So this can be a brief description as to what the team is about and what it will focus on. Along with that, you can also see your membership. Now, you'll see that Megan is a part of quite a few teams and that she is an owner of a lot of the teams that she's a part of as well. Now, the difference between being an owner and a member in a team will appear in your capabilities in functioning with the team. So if you are an owner, you have more capabilities in controlling the team's permissions and what they have access to, as opposed to a member who may not have the same capabilities in that team. Along with the membership, you can see how many people are in the team. So some teams are larger, as you can see over here, while some teams are smaller. You'll have that ability to go ahead and customize it to your liking, obviously, along with the rest of the information over here. If you are part of larger teams, you want to make sure that all that information is that you do put into those teams and channels and those conversations are being spread out equally. Now, along with the people, you have the type of team that there is. Now, this is a very important function in my opinion. As you can see over here, you'll be able to tell if this is a public team, an organization team, or a private team. So obviously, if this is locked right over here, as you can see, this is a private team, and the information that is exchanged in this team will only be available to the people who are a part of the team overall. Now, if it is an organizational team, you'll have this building icon right over here, and all the information that's shared within your organization, if it was made with everybody in your organization, that information will be shared throughout this teams and channels over here. And then we have our world icon, which indicates a public team. So a public team, even if there are people in your organization who are not a part of that team, they can search up the information and automatically be able to join the team, whether it be with the code or have the option to join or create a team when you see it over there. And that information will be available for viewing within the members of your organization. Now, as I mentioned before, these three dots, which are the ellipses, are going to allow you to have some more personalized access to the different teams that you are a part of. So if I were to select a specific team, perhaps the Market Project team, as I navigated over here, you'll see that if I select this, I can go ahead and choose to manage the team overall because Megan is an owner. I can choose to add a channel. I can choose to add members. I can leave the team overall, choose to edit the team, and have a few other options as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select manage the team. And now you'll be drawn to a specific team that you are a part of, where you can find some more in-depth information about the team overall. So first off, we have our members tab where you can see the owners more in detail as to what capabilities and functions that they have. Along with the owners, you'll see the members and guests. That will take a moment to appear right over here. You'll see that there's quite a few members and their functionalities are a little bit different. You can choose to add a member right over here through these functions, but we will also review that information when we create our own team as well. Now we go along to our tab line and we select the channels tab, and you'll see the different channels that are a part of the Market Project team. Now in the Market Project team, you can see that the channels that are a part of it are public, and the information that you do want to be seen, as in show for me, you can choose to select them. And if I choose to unselect them, then that information won't be seen. You can choose to have that information be seen for members or not for members if you choose to do so, and have that customization feature with your membership capabilities. Along with that, along with the channels tab, we have the settings tab. Now in the settings tab is where you can have more personalized access in organizing your team. So you can choose to add a team picture. As you can see, there's already a team picture right over here, but if I needed to change it, I can do that over here. I can customize member permissions over here. So if you take a look in the member permissions, you can choose to have certain members create and update channels, create private channels. They can choose to delete and restore channels. And these channels will be embedded within the team, so you'll be able to see the information that they are doing and if you are a member, or excuse me, the task that they are completing if you are a member. But once again, it's up to um, your your own preferences and settings as to what capabilities the team members in your organization can have in your channels. Now you also have the option to delete their message, to make sure that they can delete their messages, to edit their messages, and so on and so forth. Along with that, as I was mentioning before, we can also focus on specific guest permissions as well. Now, more often than not, sometimes within your organization, you may have guests that you may need to complete certain projects with, and you can have Teams allows for like that customization and flexibility in working with your guests. So you can allow guests to create and update channels if you needed them to do something, or you can allow them to delete channels as well. So if you were working on any temporary projects, or if you had a guest work on something and that guest is no longer working with you, you can go ahead and remove that information as well. Now, along with guest permissions, you have your @mentions right over here. Now, having that @mention tag open is relatively important since a lot of information can get lost in the teams and channels that you do have. More often than not, when you are tagged in a task or you have something due, perhaps in your day-to-day functions, you may want to save that information for later. So if you are tagged in a task, or if you are @mentioned in a task, as you can see over here, you have the option to go ahead and refer to it later on throughout your day, or make sure to @mention anyone for any future work that they need to complete overall. Now, I was mentioning before about joining a team. So if you needed to go ahead and share out a team code, as you can see over here, you can generate a code right over here. If I select the word generate, you'll see that a code appears. Now this code you can copy and go ahead and share it out with other members in your organization or any guests to go ahead and make sure they can be added to the team. Now I will show you, if I go ahead and copy this team right over here, I can select join or create a team right there, and I can enter that code and join the team. But since I am already a part of that team, I won't necessarily need to do that, but if I needed to, I can go ahead and do that as well. Return right over here. So under our team code, we have some fun stuff. So this is purely dependent on your organization, but if you allow emojis or GIFs, as you can see over here, any stickers and memes, you have the option to include them in your threaded conversations, as we will review them in a little bit. And along with that, we have tags. So having tags will allow for teams and channels to, for, excuse me, for the specific teams and channel members to be drawn to the information that they have to complete throughout their day-to-day functions. So whether it be a group of people or a specific person, and you can go ahead and create a tag for a specific task. They'll be directed to that task when you do put out those tags for them later on. So you can choose if tags are managed by team owners or team owners and members. At the moment, we'll have it managed by team owners so they can have a little bit more the specificity in the tags that they do create, but you have the option to go ahead and customize that as well. Now, along with the settings tab, we have the analytics tab. Now this tab, once again, it is there for your use. If you choose not to use it, it's fine too. But I can say that this is a relatively um, keen feature. If you take a look, you'll be able to see the engagement that there is in the team and channel that you use. So this is important information because you can figure out if the work that you are putting out in the teams and channels that you're using is relatively active for the people who are using it. So more often than not, we do create tasks and projects that perhaps people are not as engaged with or are not working to the best of their ability. So you can use this analytics tab for your channels and your teams to track if people are engaged with that information. And in that sense, you can go ahead and either create a different task or somehow upkeep the engagement in the teams and channels using the analytics tab to guide your judgment. So as you can see over here, you'll see how many posts are being engaged with, how many replies, if there's any app mentions, any reactions, and overall the time that it has seen in engagement as well. Now, some other features also include, as I was mentioning before, if you decide to add any applications along with your teams. So we will review this and how to add them as well within your teams and channels, but you can see that there are quite a few applications that this channel is used or this team is using. And these applications are in the Microsoft 365 applications use, so you can go ahead and add them on depending on the work that you're doing in your day-to-day functions. Along with that, we have tags, as I was mentioning before. So at the moment for this specific team, there are no tags, but you can go ahead and create a tag right over here, and you can choose the tag name, a description, and add the people that you want to tag them infrequently, specifically for that task. All right, so now we reviewed some of the information in accessing all of your teams as we did using that gear icon right over here. So once again, you can go ahead and review that information along for any team or channel that you are a part of. In terms of the amount of teams and channels that you are a part of, the best practice to use them is to normally be a part of about 10 teams, because within those teams, as a reminder, there will be channels. One of the channels that are automatically generated with the teams that you create it's the general channel. That general channel will be a space for everyone to communicate who is a part of that team, just any general information, obviously, but specifically just communicating any information relevant to that team overall rather than the specific categories it's divided by. So once again, just as a best practice, keeping your teams and channel your teams to about 10 teams and channels, but also making sure that you keep track of the channels that are also within those teams and whether or not they are being engaged with. Now, we are going to go over and review the Teams owner experience. So we did review how to navigate and access all of your teams, but now we are going to focus on creating a team overall. So once again, I want to draw your attention to the left side of your screen, and you'll see the Join or Create a Team button right over here. So I'll go ahead and select that, and we did see this before when we were going to enter a code to join a team, but we will specifically be focusing on creating a team. Now, before I go ahead and do that, I also do want to draw your attention to some of the other teams that are over here, as in the project management team and the brand management team. Because these teams are public, I can go ahead as Megan and join them. But if they were private, then I wouldn't be able to see them nor join them unless I received an invitation. So we're going to go ahead and create a team right now. And now you can see over here, there are a few options in creating a team. So you can choose to create your team from scratch, which is what we'll be focusing on today. But you can go ahead and choose to also create a team from a group or a team that already existed. And if you do want to base your team on a specific project or managing an event or onboarding employees, whichever you may choose, there's some templates that you can also use in creating your team. So I think this is a very helpful feature. Sometimes we may have a lot of information that we may not know how to organize. So overall, you can go ahead and choose a template to customize your teams overall. So we'll go ahead and select from scratch. And now I can choose if I want the team to be private or public. So I don't want to make the team org-wide because I don't want everyone in the organization to have access to the information that I'm working on at the moment. But I do want to make it public, perhaps for future purpose. We will go ahead and add more people, but maybe I'll create some private channels within the team. So for now, I'll make the team public. So I'll go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to go ahead and give the team a name. And then we can focus on what this, excuse me, give a specific description about what this team is about. And go ahead and create that team. So once you have the title and a brief description of what the team is about, you can go ahead and add some people to your team. So for Megan, along with Megan, I'm going to focus on a couple of different people who are going to collaborate with me today. We'll go ahead and add them. Maybe one more person. We are. Okay, so now once you add them, not only have they been added to the team, but you can now choose their membership. So you can already see the different roles that these people have in the company overall, but perhaps I want to give them more responsibility in the channels and teams that we're going to create at the moment. So perhaps for Deborah, I'll make her an owner and I'll leave Christy as a member, but perhaps for Alan, I'll make him an owner as well. Just so in case that Megan is not available, Deborah and Alan have some capabilities and functions in organizing the team and any channel information that we'll be working with for today. So we'll go ahead and create that team. And now that team is going to be generated right at the bottom over here. So you can see the marketing analysis team. And as I was saying before, there's always going to be a general tab for that team. Now, in that general tab, as I mentioned before, will be a space for constant communication or any general information that you want to share. So we're going to go ahead and create a conversation. And as I was mentioning before, normally the conversations in the different teams are threaded. I do want to go ahead and review that very briefly before we go ahead and create a conversation. So I can go to our Market project team and perhaps select a specific channel, the Digital Assets Web, and you'll see that there are a few conversations here. These are announcements, which we will review right now, but you can see the different conversations that have appeared and that these conversations are threaded. Now, having conversations threaded, as you can see over here, will allow for the members of the team to see the constant history and specificity in the tasks and actions that have been completed rather than having random posts that appear. So you'll be able to see not only the people who are involved with that conversation, but if they have completed their tasks, and you can also date back to when that task was completed as well. So again, this allows for some organization and customization in having your teams and projects specifically organized to your liking. So now we will return to our marketing analysis team and to specifically our general channel. Now, as I was mentioning before, we will create a conversation. But before we go ahead and do that, I did also want to add some more channels. So you'll see because this is a new channel and there hasn't been any information exchanged yet, they have some suggestions as to what you can do with your channel. So I can go ahead and add more people to the team overall, but I did say I want to focus on creating some more channels. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll add a channel that will be private. Don't need a description, maybe perhaps. And maybe since I want to go ahead and make sure that this channel will be private, so I can go ahead and have specific teammates have access. So I can go ahead and create that, and it'll allow me to add the channel and take a look at which team members will have access. So perhaps I'll make it that these team members specifically will have access to this information. So I'll go ahead and add them, and I'll keep them as members and create that channel. Now you'll see that channel has been generated over here, and it has that locked icon right over here, which is rather small, but that's also notifying you that this information is private, and the people who do exchange that information in this channel will only be able to see that. So now I'll go ahead and return to our general channel, and I'll go ahead and open up a conversation. So I do this by selecting new conversation, and you'll see over here the information in general and formatting your conversation is very similar to when you have a chat conversation in Teams, but you have a few more options over here. So as I was saying before, we noticed a few banners, announcements, so we're going to go ahead and create one. So instead of a new conversation, I'm going to go ahead and select announcement right over here. And in that way, a banner will appear and you have some customization as to how that announcement will appear. So I can go ahead and customize it to a specific color and write my announcement. And with that option, I do want to draw your attention right over here at the top as to who can reply to the announcement. So you'll see right over here at the moment, I have it set so that everyone can reply, but you can also set it so that only you and the moderators can reply. So now, since this is a smaller team, I'm going to have it set so that everyone can reply. But if there was a larger team and you wanted to limit the amount of traction that may be in the general channel, then you can perhaps set it to you and the moderators can reply overall. Now, another option that is available as opposed to other conversations you'll see over here is to post in multiple channels. So if I go ahead and select post in multiple channels, I can post obviously in the marketing analysis channel. But if I go ahead and select channels right over here, you'll see the other teams that Megan is a part of and whether or not you can go ahead and post in them. So perhaps I don't want to post in the other specific teams that are relevant to any projects, but maybe in the communications channel. I would want to post in the communications channel, perhaps to let everyone know that there is a new team that was created and some work can be done and the information that will be completed over there. So I have my announcement over here and I have the channels that I want to share this announcement out to as well. Now I can go ahead and, as I was mentioning before, to mention a couple of people so they can immediately be notified and drawn to this announcement right over here. So I'll go ahead and tag them. And I have my announcement right over there. And now I know that this announcement is being posted in a few channels. And since I've reviewed it, I can go ahead and share it out. So once I do share it out, you'll see that the announcement banner appears at the top right corner right over here. And people can react to it if they've been tagged. As you see, Alan is already on it and already reacting to this announcement. And now, because it is threaded, once again, they can reply to that conversation and that information will stay in that whole conversation altogether. So I appreciate my moderators in collaborating with me really quickly. So some other information in accessing your teams and channels I'll wanted to draw your attention to. So since this is a general channel, as I said before, this will allow for frequent communication between all of the team members that are part of that channel. However, you can go ahead to a specific channel. So we'll go perhaps to the brand market agency. And maybe you want to go ahead and share out some information that's only relevant to the brand market agency. So now, once again, I'm going to go ahead and create a new conversation, but instead of marking it as an announcement, I'll go ahead and just start a new conversation and share out a document that I want to work and collaborate with everyone. So I can add the subject, and add my message. And now I'm going to go ahead and um, attach the document that I was referring to in this message. So I can take a minute to select my OneDrive right over here to go ahead and share out my file. Now scroll down and select a relevant document, upload that copy. So as it's taking a moment to upload, I did also want to draw your attention right over here to this exclamation mark. So if I select this exclamation mark, this message will be marked as important, this post. So now it will draw everyone's attention who is a part of that channel overall. And I do want to make sure that everybody is able to see it and interact with this post relatively quickly. And then I can go ahead and share it out. It'll take a moment. And now because this post has been shared out, I'll see if the people who are a part of this team can automatically let me know that they've seen this document and can interact with this post, letting me know, obviously, if they've seen it. Now, because I've shared this file out, you can obviously access this file easily right over here if you choose to do so. But if there were a good amount of posts, since this channel is new, there aren't any as much. But if you wanted to go ahead and access those files, you can select the Files tab right over here. And once you select the Files tab, that file that has just been shared out is already available over here for easy viewing as well. All right, so we'll return to our posts. And at the moment, not everyone has had an ability to see it, which is totally fine. We can also focus on adding some applications to your channel. Now, as I was mentioning before, adding applications will allow for further collaboration and interaction between you and your coworkers. Now, in completing projects, you can go ahead and add applications in this way by selecting this additional sign right over here. When you do select this tab line, select the option to add a tab, a few applications will appear, as I was mentioning before. So you have the option to go ahead and choose an application that will be most accessible and and function with the work that you've been doing. So if I wanted to go ahead and select a whiteboard for the application for the channel that I complete my work in with, as in Megan, if she created a whiteboard, she can go ahead and name it. And once you go ahead and name the whiteboard or whatever document or application that you're using, if there's a specific feature, you can go ahead and name it. And this can be a place to take notes. Now, I specifically did want to draw your attention to this option right over here. You have the option to select this button and it will post to the channel automatically about this tab. So you wouldn't have to necessarily go out of your way to post about it. You can go ahead and select it and it'll generate automatically. And in this way, you can notify everybody in the channel that there is this new tab and they can go ahead and take a look without necessarily tagging them or reaching out to them individually. So I'll go ahead and share that application out and I'll save this. Please allow it a moment to load. And as you'll see, the whiteboard generates right over here. But if I go ahead and return to my post right over here, you'll see that there is another post about the whiteboard over here as well. You see that my colleagues are fast to react and interact with this post, which I really appreciate and shows that constant collaboration and communication within your teams and channels makes it quick and allows for that work to be in one place. Now, I know I did review a lot of information in creating a team, so I'm going to go ahead and take a quick water break, but I do want to check in with my moderators and see if there are any questions in the Q&A.
All right, Faiza, great presentation. So far, we don't have any questions, so we are free to continue.
All right, thank you so much, Rod. I do want to remind you, if you do have any questions or if you need me to redemonstrate anything, please let me know so I can go ahead and do that for you. Now we'll go ahead and continue with our session. Now, one other action that I did want to display was collaborating in specific spaces within your teams and channels. So I'm going to go ahead, as we created this whiteboard, and just backtrack a little bit and return to our whiteboard right over here. And you'll be able to see that within this tab that was created, I can go ahead and collaborate with my colleagues. Now, if they were to appear in the whiteboard, I would be notified in this specific space over here where their avatars will appear, and we'll know we can work on this together. I'll allow my colleagues a moment, but as I am doing that, I'm going to go ahead and open up a note page. And you can see that my colleague Christy has joined me, joined Megan, and they can go ahead and collaborate on this function, on this whiteboard together, excuse me. So this allows for, once again, more content collaboration and work that you can do in your day-to-day tasks within your teams and channels. Perfect. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and return to my posts. And I do want to go ahead and show you how to collaborate on a file. So if I select this file that I shared out right over here, I can select the ellipses and I can choose to open this document in Teams, which is the default version. And I would suggest to do this just because it will allow for like rapid work and accessing your information. But if you chose not to do this, you can choose to open up the desktop application overall, or go ahead and open it up in your browser as well. And if you need to, you can go ahead and download the link or copy the link and share it out with other people. Another unique feature that you do have is to make this a tab. Now, if I select make this a tab, you'll see that another tab appears for the document where I can easily access it as well. So we'll go ahead and do that, and you'll see that the document has appeared right over here. And we can go ahead and work on it and collaborate with our colleagues. Now, some information I did want to briefly review before we go ahead and work on this. Once again, if I were to collaborate with my colleagues, their avatars would appear right over here, and I can see, select their avatars and see where they're working. But along with that, if you wanted to access a previous version of the document, perhaps you weren't able to work on it when everyone else was able to work on it, you can go ahead to File right over here and select Info. And once you select info, you can select a version history. And when you do select a version history, you can access a previous version of this document. And as I said before, because this is a new document, there are no previous versions. But if there were any, they would appear right over here, depending on when they were worked on last. And you can also go ahead and see the changes that are in the document as well. So I can go ahead and return back to that document. And along with that, you'll see the ellipses right over here, again with our 3 dots. You'll see that you have the option to just edit the document overall, but perhaps you do want to just review it and go over some general changes. Now, if you did select to review it, you would only be able to add comments and suggest changes rather than editing the document overall. Another option that you do have is to add comments. Now, if I did select to add a comment, I can go ahead and select this right over here and tag someone to work on this document specifically. Now, when I go ahead and send this comment out and assign it to Deborah as Megan, she will not only receive a notification that she has a task to complete, but she will also receive an email notifying her that she has a task to complete in this channel of this team. So I can go ahead and select that, and you'll see that that comment is there for her if she were to come work on this document later. Now, another option that you do have is the catch-up feature. Using the catch-up feature, you can go ahead and see if you have any information that you have to catch up on, any activity that has been completed if you weren't on the document before. And obviously, as I mentioned before, you have the option to go ahead and open in the browser and download this document overall. So this would be a collaborative space, as I was saying, and you can easily work on it through Teams rather than opening up the desktop application or the browser. Now, one last feature I want to display when collaborating on this document is selecting this tab conversation. When you do go select the tab conversation and you go ahead and start a conversation over here, you'll see that that tab that you had created before with the document, or excuse me, that post that you had created before with the document, that conversation will thread at that bottom right over there. So I can ask everyone. And now that post will appear once over here. I'll go ahead and show you once we return. Within that conversation, which will remain threaded for everyone's easy access. So I'm going to go ahead and return back to that channel, and you'll see that post that I created just as Megan will appear right there. So once again, we did review a lot of information in regards to creating your team and collaborating within your team. Now, one last aspect that I did want to explore within your team was having an ad hoc meeting. Now, collaborating within your teams and channels, as I was saying before, can be relatively easy depending on the amount of people that you have within your team's channels, but also can be a little bit difficult depending on how many people are a part of those teams and channels and how organized those teams and channels are. Now, if you were in a bigger team, or if you were in a bigger team with a lot of members, sometimes you want to go ahead and communicate information quickly. And in that way, rather than writing a post, perhaps you can go ahead and start an ad hoc meeting. So if you choose to go ahead and start an ad hoc meeting, you can go ahead right over here at the top right corner and select this video camera icon right over here that says Meet. Now, you can choose, if you select the down arrow, to meet right now, which is what we're going to do, but you can go ahead and schedule a meeting, and that meeting will have that meeting detail right over here, as I can show you, with that channel information. So the people who receive this invitation are obviously going to be a part of this channel overall, but they'll have that information to relate back to the marketing analysis channel and, excuse me, the marketing analysis team with that channel and that information that's relevant to this meeting. So I'll go ahead and close that and select this meeting button right over here. So once I select this meeting button, as I mentioned before, I am using a virtual desktop, so I don't have a camera and microphone connected to this side of the meeting. But if you are using a normal device, you should be able to access those settings and features. But I'll go ahead and jump into an ad hoc meeting. Now, because Teams is able to indicate that I did jump into an ad hoc meeting, it'll give me some options to copy the meeting link and share it out with people, or I can go ahead and add participants as well if I needed to. So I will close these options out. And now I wanted to display what it looks like when you are having a meeting in your teams and channels. So right over here, you can see that a new post was created showing that there is a meeting occurring right over here that people can automatically hop into if they are part of that team. So they can select the join button and jump in automatically. But if I scroll down over here, you'll see that along with that channel right over here, along with that channel, the general channel of the marketing analysis team, there is a video camera icon right over here indicating that a meeting is occurring. So because you'll go ahead and share that information quickly, you can collaborate with people, and you also have the option to go ahead. I'm going to open that tab up for the meeting to record the meeting. You can do this by selecting the ellipses right over here and choosing to start the recording. And once you do start the recording and the meeting is recorded, for anybody who wasn't able to join that quick ad hoc meeting at the moment, you can go ahead and share that information out with people who weren't there. Now, one other option I did want to emphasize right over here is, once again, because these conversations are threaded in your channels and meetings, any conversation that you have over here will be threaded and will show within the post that's available in your channel. So I can go ahead and start a conversation. Go ahead and thank Deborah for joining. And now that this meeting has occurred and the information has been exchanged, perhaps you can go ahead and stop the recording right over here. And once you stop the recording, there's also a recording appearance that will show up right over here, which you can access through your SharePoint site, as well as a transcript for the recording that you can access there as well. So now you have the option to go ahead and leave the meeting, or you can end the meeting overall as over here. I appreciate that Christy was able to join in the last minute. So I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting for everyone. But once I do end this meeting right over here, I want to go ahead and show you that this post has been created and the conversation that occurred over here will generate over here as well. So not only that, can you see the recording, the transcript, and the conversation that is a part of this meeting, but you can even see the attendance of this meeting. So you can see that I had 3 attendees, myself as Megan, Christy, and Deborah. So you can go ahead and track that information. If different members were having a meeting and if you were an owner, you can go ahead and track that information to see how much collaborative work has been done regarding the task that this team has to complete. So we focused a lot on the team's owner experience, but now we're going to go ahead and just take a look in our remaining time at the team's member experience. So as I was saying before, we can go ahead and look at the different teams that Megan is a part of. We'll return over here. And we can go ahead to the Contoso marketing team. So if I select this team and I'm drawn to the general channel over here, you'll see there's a few posts that have been exchanged overall throughout these channels, but you can go ahead to a specific channel. So, right now at the moment we have a general channel, which is totally fine. So over here you can see that there isn't that much information that has been exchanged, but perhaps we can go to a different team. So we'll return to our Marquee project team and go to our design channel. Now, if we go to our design channel, as I was mentioning before, there are many announcements and posts, as well as posts about meetings that have occurred that you can track and see the information that people have exchanged throughout their day-to-day functions. So if I wanted to go ahead and refer to a specific post, perhaps how Megan as herself posted something in previously where she can go ahead and share information, I can go ahead and select this post and reply to a conversation that has been previously created before or engaged in before. And go ahead and send that out. And you'll see that once again, because these posts are threaded, that information and the replies that you receive will be organized within those posts and conversations overall. So some other information I did want to share out in creating another post. So I'll select new conversation right over here, and I want to format this conversation. So once again, I'll have another announcement that appears right here and navigate it right there. And now I can go ahead and share out another file that we can collaborate on. Since we weren't able to see some collaboration there, perhaps we'll see some collaboration over here. Now I can tag the people that I want specifically to take a look. Once again, you're right here. There we go. And once again, I'll go ahead to the attachment, the paperclip icon right over here and attach a document. And I'll go to my OneDrive and select a document that is relevant to the design channel. Go ahead and share my link. So one thing that I did want to review, as it didn't appear over there before, are some link settings. So under the title of the document, as you can see over here, Under there, it says in a very small font, anyone with the link can edit. If you go ahead and select this, another window will appear with some link settings. Now, you can have the option to go ahead and share the document with anyone if you want the link settings for anyone with the link to access the document, or specifically people in your organization with the link, or only the Markgate project team, which is what I'm going to be sticking specifically to, just because this is a document that's only relevant to the Markgate project team. Or you can choose for the link to be only people that have existing access, or even specific people that you can list out on your own. Now, because I am sticking with this link, I can also choose whether or not people can edit this document or if they can only view it. Now, I want to make sure that they can edit as we are collaborating all together, but if they were viewing it, they wouldn't necessarily be able to make changes, only suggestions. So I'll go ahead and make sure that's edited, and I can apply that link right over here. And I'll take a moment and I'll go ahead and share that out. So once again, another post will generate as an announcement, and it'll have that banner right over here that will draw everyone's attention and go ahead and create that document for everyone to work with together. And as you can see, Megan's coworkers are hard at work and accessing that document. All right, so I know I reviewed a lot of information today in the team's owner's experience and the team's members' experience, but before I go ahead and check in with my moderators, I did want to draw your attention to one last thing, just to help you in reviewing your information regarding teams and channels. So we're going to navigate right over here to the bottom of your screen to the help icon right over here. So once I select this help icon, you'll see that there are quite a few tabs that open up in a small window regarding help topics, help training, and what's new with Teams. And you even have the option to suggest a feature or give feedback on the feature that you were working on. Now, I did want to draw your attention to the topic specifically. So once again, because I reviewed a lot of information, perhaps you weren't able to access the recording as easily or did not remember some specific things, which is no problem at all. It happens to everyone. You can go ahead and search up a topic, anything relevant to Teams overall. So whether it be Teams and channels or any other functionalities, you can go ahead and look it up, and you'll find any support documents right over here and any training videos or training support documents that can help you out in exploring what Teams has to offer. Along with that, as I mentioned before, you can find find any features that have been newly identified in Teams that you can work with. And you also have the option to go ahead and suggest any features as well. Now, that does conclude my session, and I do want to check in with my moderators once again to see if there are any questions in the Q&A.
All right, Faiza, a great presentation. There are no questions, but if there's any last minute questions, we definitely here. We want to make sure everybody have all the questions answered, but we are good to continue.
All right, thank you so much, Rod. Okay, so as there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick recap of our session. Please allow me a moment as I go ahead and return to my screen. All right, so as we reviewed today, we did get to explore some teams and channels in Microsoft Teams, and we specifically learned and understood more about the teams and channel structure and how to join, organize, and collaborate in teams and channels, and finally creating and managing a team overall. So now I do want to take a moment to thank you all for joining me today. And as we come to the end of our session, my moderators will be dropping a link in the chat to an optional survey. So we really do appreciate your time and value your feedback. If you can take a moment to fill out our survey, it would allow us to know how I completed my role as a presenter and how my moderators completed their roles in producing this meeting. Once again, this survey is just a reflection of how we completed our roles and not necessarily the team's content. So the first 3 questions are mandatory while the rest of them are optional, but the whole survey is optional overall. And if in 8 or an 8 or anything below an 8 will reflect poorly on our end. So again, we really do appreciate that feedback. If you have anything that you want to see in future sessions, or if you would like to know anything about future sessions, please feel free to reach out to your point of contact as well. And again, I want to thank you for your time, and I also want to take this time to thank my moderators for their support in this session. I hope that you were able to learn a little bit more about Teams and channels in Microsoft Teams. And for the last time, I will check in with Rod once again to see if there are any questions in the Q&A before I fully wrap up.
Alrighty, we don't have anything here that makes me think that he did a very good job. So I guess everybody's satisfied. So we are good to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rod. And once again, thank you everyone for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.